What's up, all my devil dogs? It's your boy Sean Otley, Strength Corps 5-star general. Welcome to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about 10 muscle building mistakes. I appreciate everybody who did participate in the poll that I put on Instagram. That's how I've been kind of, seeing what you guys want to see in a video from me next. So if you want, you can go ahead and, like I tell you at the end of the videos, go ahead and follow me on all my social media, specifically Instagram, and that way you can have a say in what the next video is going to be. All right, so without further ado, not going to do too much rambling. Let's just get right into it with mistake number 1. So the first muscle building mistake that a lot of people make is training specifically in one rep range. It's a mistake that even I myself made when I first started lifting, right? We get really caught up and really attached to these certain rep ranges that we feel are optimal for building muscle or building strength, right? We usually think anywhere from like 2 to 5 reps is strength, and we kind of stay there if we want to get stronger. And then, we think maybe 8 to 12 if we're trying to gain muscle, and then we think like 15 plus if we're trying to build endurance, which that's cool. There's nothing wrong with staying in those rep ranges to achieve certain goals. And like in a study I mentioned in my last video, with the certain rep ranges that are lower end, like the 3 to 5 rep range, you're going to still develop some size, but you're going to gain a little more strength there. Whereas with maybe something with higher repetitions, like in the 8 to 12 rep range, you're going to gain a little more size and maybe not as much strength. It's very vital to do both. The reason being for this, to put it in like layman's terms, right? If I train for strength and I get stronger, then when I go to those higher rep ranges, because strength tends to be more neural, if you get stronger, right? Then when you switch over to like an 8 to 12 rep range, the weights that you'll actually be able to use will be heavier, thus creating more total volume, because like I told you guys in the last video, volume is reps times weight times the amount of sets you do, right? So if that weight is higher, that total number at the end is going to be higher, which is going to lead to more gains. So don't get caught up in just one rep range and just sticking there and never, exploring a little bit, maybe even doing some higher rep stuff like in the 15 to 30 range. I think that range is probably the most neglected, and it has its benefits as well. Mistake number 2 is not eating enough protein. Now, in my next video, since this was actually the second option in the poll that I took on Instagram, is going to be on exactly how much protein you need. So I'll just kind of briefly cover it a little bit in this video. A lot of people don't prioritize it enough. While the standard has been, for as long as I can remember, 1 gram per pound of body weight, right? That's like the gold standard. If you do that, you're pretty much fine, which is true. Now, there have been studies shown that you can actually get away with a good amount less than that, but I think that especially in my experience, I see a lot with women and smaller men. It's a lot harder for them to get in protein, and that's usually the one thing that I see lacking whenever you look at their nutrition. They're just not getting quite enough of that lower threshold amount of protein. And I always give a couple options. One, you can just eat more protein. It's very filling, which if you don't have a big appetite, I can see how that can be a problem, right? If you need to eat a lot of meat to meet your protein amount for the day, that was a lot of meats. If you need to do that in order to meet your protein, there it is, meat again, then you can end up getting pretty full pretty quick, because meat tends to be really satiating. Protein in itself is very satiating. So if you're somebody with maybe not the biggest appetite, and adding more sources of lean protein is going to cause you maybe not eat enough calories, which you do have to be in a caloric surplus in order to build muscle, then what you may want to do is something like a protein shake, right? Something that you can just drink, because it's a lot easier to drink 30 grams of protein than it is to eat like an entire steak or like 8 ounces of ground beef or chicken or something like that. All right, mistake number 3. This one you've probably heard of, and it's so misunderstood, but just hear me out, okay? Number 3 is overtraining. Now, what do I mean by overtraining? There's been like this big thing over the course of years about there's no such thing as overtraining, just under recovery, which there's some truth to that. But what I'm talking about in terms of overtraining is when you're doing way too much, right? There comes a point of diminishing return where a lot of people I know now like to do these super high volume workouts where they're doing like 30 sets of chest, 40 sets of legs, 25 sets of shoulders in one workout, which is insane. That is literally an insane amount of volume. Even if you're somebody who's on the special supplements, right? Even for them, that's a lot. If you are somebody looking to do higher amounts of volume, it's a lot better for you to actually break the amount of volume you want to do and just have more frequency. So instead of 25 sets in one workout, maybe you break that up into like 3 different sessions and do like 8, 8, and 9. You know what I'm saying? Like that would make a lot more sense. You're gonna actually recover and you're actually gonna be able to push a lot more weight, because I promise you, if you're doing 30 sets in a workout, by the time you get to set 25, you're not going to be anywhere near the amount of weight you could lift as when you were like in sets 1 through 5. Like it continuously diminishes over the course of a workout, and at some point it just becomes junk volume where you're not doing anything except burning extra calories through movement and digging yourself an additional recovery hole that you're now going to have to really rest your way out of. And if you're doing those high amounts of volumes every single time you go into the gym, you're never going to recover from that. All right, so number 4, big one, self-accountability one, consistency. You got to be consistent. There's too many people who, you know, they start working out and then they stop, and then they start again and they stop again. They'll go for a couple months and they'll stop. They'll have a birthday or a cruise or vacation coming up. They'll work out a little bit. As soon as the vacation happens, then they stop, and then they wonder, why am I never making any progress? This takes time, guys. It takes time. It takes years. It takes dedication. It's not something you can kind of just do for a little bit and then stop and then, you know, just keep in that cycle. We see it every year in New Year's, right? Trust me, I worked at a gym. It works in waves. January 1st comes, and usually by like week 2 or 3, you know, once people are kind of recovered from being completely trashed on New Year's Day, which, hey, I get it, right? They'll come into the gym, they'll sign up, and they'll bang it out really hard until like maybe Valentine's Day. They get the little date with their little Valentine's crush, and then we don't see them again until like close to summer. It's really easy for people to go in these waves of working out and not working out, but then they wonder, hey, how come I can never get as strong as this guy? How come I can never get as big as this person? You know, it's all in the consistency. I'd rather somebody train 2 times a week every week for a year than for you to train every day for maybe a total of 4 weeks throughout the year, because at least that person who's training twice a week, they're being consistent. They're hitting the gym at least twice a week. Are they making optimal gains? Absolutely not, because you can't do that in just 2 sessions. But are they making progress? Are they doing something that they can actually look at and see, hey, well, last week I did this, and then this week I'm a little better, next week I'm a little better? Yes, because they have that same consistency of 2 days per week. Consistency is huge, and it's something that, you know, if you're having trouble building muscle and you're not being consistent, that is probably the first thing I would tell you that you need to change. All right, number 5. This is one I've been very guilty of over the course of my training, getting better at it, but still working on it. Sleep and recovery. You're not getting enough of it. There's this big wave now of, you know, sleep is for the weak, or I can sleep when I'm dead. And it's like, you can have that mentality if you want to. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm all for the grind, right? I've sacrificed some sleep to get some stuff done. But if you're trying to build muscle, it's going to vastly hinder you. The recovery is probably, I would say, the 3rd most important thing. You got nutrition, you got your actual workout, and then you have recovering from said workout. Sleep is so vitally important when it comes to building muscle, because recovery is where you make your progress, right? I'm sure we've probably all heard of this. Unless you're new, then hey, welcome. You actually make your gains outside of the gym when you recover. When you're in the gym, you're breaking your muscles down, right? You're putting in the work, but that's not where you're actually gaining muscle, right? You gain the muscle when you go home, eat a good nutritious meal, get enough protein in and enough calories, and then rest, recover, sleep, right? I'm talking at least bare minimum 6 hours, right? You can get away with 6 hours. Is it optimal? No. You want to be really around like 7 to 9, but if you can at least get 6 consistently, that will be enough for you to at least gain some muscle. Aside from the actual training at the gym, we get caught up in just life and just the grind that's been kind of drilled into us, especially if you're a millennial like me, right? We like, you know, the grind and entrepreneurship and things like that that literally take extra time outside of our work, which means, hey, I might have to sacrifice a little sleep. And I get that. Just know, hey, if you're sacrificing sleep, there comes a point where you're sacrificing building muscle, so you got to just prioritize what you really want to do. Mistake number 6. This one, I'm very guilty of. Bulking too much. And what I mean by that, right, is a lot of times people will think, I want to build muscles, so I'm going to eat everything in sight and lift as much as I can and build as much muscle as possible. And it kind of comes back to the same principle I talked about with overtraining, where, you know, people have this mentality of, I'm going to do every rep, I'm going to do every exercise and every movement in the gym. Less is more sometimes, right? It's the same thing. There's a point of diminishing return when it comes to bulking or adding muscle, right? Let's say that you need 3,000 calories to maintain your weight. And let's say that the maximum muscle you're gonna build is, let's say, 3,300 calories, right? A 300 calorie a 300 calorie surplus is what you need in order to grow the maximum amount of muscle that you can, right? But let's say you're being, you know, just safe or whatever, you're having 3,500. Not bad, right? You're in a 500 calorie surplus. So yeah, you're going to build some muscle. You're going to build a little fat, but at least you're building more muscle than fat, right? That's 300 calories that are going to go towards building muscle. The extra 200 you don't really need. You're just being safe. That might be fat gain or whatever, right? But let's just say somebody then, you know, says, okay, I'm going to eat 5,000 calories. Now they're like 1,700 calories above the 300 that they actually needed to build muscle. So now they're just putting on a bunch of fat, which I've done. One of my most popular videos was my transformation, where I got up to 230, which I'm 230 right now, but I'm telling you, it's a different 230 than way back in the day, right? I was eating everything. I would have Chick-fil-A twice a day, sometimes more, 2 milkshakes, 2 fries, 2 sandwiches. I was eating everything in sight and lifting my ass off. And I'm not gonna say I didn't gain a good amount of muscle doing that, but I gained so much fat that I had to diet for basically 6 months before I got the final result. And you never wanna have to diet that long. I promise you, like 6 months, that's like 24 weeks. If I was getting ready for a show or something, sure, but I was just trying to get lean and look good for like the summertime and the college girls, you know what I'm saying? I definitely overdid it, and a lot of people do that. It does not take eating everything in sight to build muscle, right? You just gotta look and see what your weight is, eat a little bit more until you see your weight start going up, and then maybe if you're a beginner, you can get away with like 2-3 pounds a month, but eventually it's gonna taper off, and as you gain more experience, you don't really wanna be gaining any more than like a pound a month. That way, when it's time to diet, it's really quick. You can get in and out like in 8 to 12 weeks. Mistake number 7 is ego lifting, right? I think everybody who's ever worked out is guilty of this. But yeah, it does not take ego lifting to build muscle. You really wanna be moving the weights in a controlled manner, because there's the concentric portion, which is the portion everybody cares about. You know, like if you're doing a bench press, that's the part where, you know, your arms are fully extended, chest is, you know, contracted. And then there is a second part of that, and that's the eccentric. And what people tend to do is they don't control the weight back down. They just kind of drop it and then bounce it off their chest and worry only about the concentric, right? You've got concentric contractions, you've got eccentric contractions, you've got isometric contractions, which is basically just like an example of that would be like if I have like my arm and I just flex it and hold, that's isometric. A plank is isometric, right? A lot of people neglect those things and they just try and move the weight by using body English or bouncing the weight off their chest. And that's no way to build muscle. If you look at anybody who's got a good physique, they're controlling the weight on the eccentric, they're controlling it and exploding in a, you know, controlled manner on the concentric. And when they're in their isometric, they're really focusing and doing it correctly. You think you're gonna impress the chick in the Gymshark leggings over there? I promise you, she's probably not looking or paying any attention to you. So just do the weight that is actually for you. And maybe eventually she'll actually pay attention, because you'll actually build a physique, right? Instead of just being a clown and lifting weight that we know you have no business touching, right? You got to earn your way up to the big boy weights. And that just comes from, you know, time and dedication and doing things the right way. Number 8, in terms of muscle building mistakes, is training muscle groups only once per week. Short, sweet, and simple. If you train a muscle once a week, you're not going to get as much out of it as if you train twice a week. You're going to usually be more sore. You're not going to be able to fit in as much volume, because like I said before, you doing 30 sets in one workout is not going to be as beneficial as you doing, let's say, 15 sets in 2 workouts. That's a lot better, because You're going to be stronger in each session. You're going to be stimulating muscle protein synthesis much more frequently, and that's going to lead to more gains over time. So if you're somebody who maybe you only have time to get in the gym maybe a couple times a week, it would be more beneficial for you to maybe do full body or something like that, where you can hit everything twice, because you're going to get a lot more out of that than if you're only doing like an upper lower where you're hitting like everything pretty much once a week. All right, mistake number 9 is not having or sticking to a plan. A lot of people walk into the gym, believe it or not, and it still shocks me to this day. I don't know how people do this. They walk in without any game plan. They just walk into the gym and they're just like, I think I'm gonna do legs today. Usually it's not legs though. Or I think I'm gonna do chest today. Or I think I'll hit some arms today. Or in the middle of their arm workout, I kind of want to do back today. And then they wonder why they're not making any progress. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It's that quote literally rings so true in this situation, right? I know that the first time I actually hired a coach and had somebody give me basically a game plan for what I had to do in the gym made life so much easier. I've always followed some type of plan or structure, like, okay, I know this day's chest day and here's generally what I want to do, but having an actual game plan, right? Having something where you know, okay, I'm going to the gym and this is what I have to do, and once I've checked off everything, I can leave. It just makes you feel so much better. You don't feel like you never did enough, or you don't feel like you did too little. You know you did just the right amount. That's what was prescribed, and it's a lot easier to keep track that way. Shameless plug, if you need a coach to help you, get one of these programs where you can take all the guesswork out of it, you can hire me, right? Go ahead and click on the little info card thingy over here, and we can definitely set something up and chop it up. And I'd love to help anybody who is in need of any type of programming or anything like that. Now, just as important as having a plan is, actually sticking to the plan is just as important, because a lot of people will start a program and they'll be following it and then they just stop because maybe they find another program, or they start questioning it, or they're not getting the gains as fast as they thought they would, right? It's better to carry out a program and finish it and then give your final decision on whether it was good or not, than to stop, a quarter of the way through when you just, you didn't follow it all the way through. And had you actually would have seen it's a good program, right? So just as important as having a game plan is, you got to follow the game plan all the way through. So that's actually going to lead us into mistake number 10. So mistake number 10 is a huge one, right? Last one, guys. It is paralysis by analysis, right? What do I mean by that? A lot of people, when they want to start building muscle, especially beginners, they'll watch every video, read every study. They'll, listen to this guy at the gym telling them, hey, you need to stick to the 8 to 12 rep range. But then this guy over here, like me, is telling you, no, you need to do all the rep ranges. Then you got people who are powerlifters, bodybuilders, physique competitors, triathletes, people who are training for a sport. There's so much information out there that it can literally just overwhelm people and they don't know where to start, right? Paralysis by analysis, right? They spend so much time looking and researching that they never actually get moving. They never actually touch a dumbbell or a barbell and move the weight. That's a big issue that luckily I didn't have. I'm more of a person where, listen, I'd rather be doing something and learn along the way than to try to learn everything, which you're never going to be able to do, and then start working out. That never made any sense to me, but that makes sense to some people. And what I want to do is get people out of that mindset and say, listen, just get in the gym, start lifting, and figure it out along the way, right? That's part of the journey. We're all gonna make mistakes. I've made mistakes, you made mistakes, we've all made them. The person who's gonna start working out tomorrow is going to make mistakes. And 5 years from now, they're gonna realize, that was pretty dumb, but hey, it's part of the journey. So don't get so caught up in trying to find the perfect workout or, the perfect way to train. Just get in there, start moving. Especially if you're a beginner, you're gonna make progress anyway and learn along the way. All right, guys, I hope you did enjoy today's video. If you did, be sure to subscribe, leave a thumbs up down below, really helps the channel grow. Also, don't forget to click that bell next to the subscription button so you get notifications for all my new videos. And of course, don't forget the orders. Subscribe and share, like and comment, follow all my social media. Till next time, all my devil dogs, dismissed.